Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Today on the channel, we are taking a look at two small sci-fi games. The first is Soulless Lost, and next is Pocket Sci-Fi. Soulless Lost, I actually found via a Facebook ad, believe it or not, one of those random targeted ads. Facebook knows that I like board and card games, and so it threw this ad to me, and I thought the game looked pretty interesting, and so I took a chance on it, and the price was right as well. Pocket Sci-Fi, I was provided this copy for a review, and Pocket Sci-Fi is available from the Game Crafter. I think both of these games do some things pretty well, and both of them have a few areas where they could be improved. But they're both small enough that I think they could fit into your small game collection. And I think they're both kind of interesting games. I just would like to see them be a little bit better. So I'm not sure which one we'll cover first. And I think to determine that, we will roll this d20 here. On an even, we'll do Solus Lost first. On an odd, we'll do Pocket Sci-Fi first. And it is a 9. So we will do Pocket Sci-Fi first. Let me get Soulless Lost cleared out of the way, and we'll come back to the table with Pocket Sci-Fi. Okay, so let's take a look at Pocket Sci-Fi here. Humanity has left its biological and geographical origins long ago. Now cyborgs, you travel among the stars. There you encounter the alien synth race who are hacking and hijacking humans through their electronic interfaces. You're charged with infiltrating and destroying the command planets of your oppressors. Overcome a series of 3 missions, starting with little more than meat fists and electronic wits. 1 to 2 players, either solo or co-op. So, Pocket Sci-Fi is a dice manipulation card game with a few kind of choose your own adventure elements thrown in for good measure. In the game, you will print out a character sheet where you will keep track of some items that you have, your name, your biochip max. Biochips are things that you can use. They are items, they are cybernetic implants that you can use to manipulate dice and to do damage and things like that. And you will keep track of a number of points because as you go through the missions, you will earn points. And you're looking for at least 12 points to win the game or 16 points to win with honors. And then, like I said, you will also have a place to write down some of your items. It also comes with a few dice there and a little token to keep track of your place on the mission map. And you start at encounter 1. Along with your mission map, you will print out and your character sheet. You will also have a book, and this walks you through the missions. Now, the missions are somewhat linear, but they do have some branching choices as you move from one encounter to the next. And there will also be opportunities to roll dice on missions to have some random things happen. So while it may not appear there is a lot of replayability, there are some random things that can make one play different from the next. The main thing you're going to be doing in the game is working through this series of encounter cards with these weird bioengineered, bio-mutant type enemies. We have things like a cyber raptor, a parasite, a arachno-replicans, the mind synth, the specimen collector, the synth elite, the synth zombie, and the cargo bot. And each one of these is an enemy that is a little dice placement and dice manipulation mini game. When you defeat the enemy, you can turn it over to collect its biochip. And this biochip will give you the opportunity to do certain things with your dice and make your character stronger. Now, in a single player game, your character can start with 4 biochips. And when you start the game, you're actually going to start with biochips 1 and 2. So these cards are kept in a certain order from C1 to C15. And when you first set up your game, you're going to take C1, which is the triduction biochip. You'll take that out and lay that next to your character. And you'll take the biochip C2, which is the current redirection biochip. And you'll lay that next to your character. You will then take a couple of D6 to represent your starting health. And your starting health is going to be 4 on each one of your biochips. If you ever get this the starting health down to 0 on a biochip, you flush, you remove that biochip, it's damaged beyond repair, and you also lose that health. So each of the biochips will allow you to do certain things. They will allow you to manipulate the dice in certain ways. They will have these symbols, such as this biochip symbol or this biohazard symbol, and sometimes those will be referenced. They might say, you do damage based on the number of biohazard symbols you have, or you can manipulate the dice by how many of these symbols you have, or how many of your dice symbols you have. And each one of these will have an action and a way to claim dice. You can choose to do either one of these things. You can do the action, which will allow you to manipulate the die or the dice that you roll or do something different, or you can claim them. And when you claim dice, you put them on your biochip, and then that allows you to do the resolution when you meet the requirements. So I think that's a pretty interesting system. So let's take this triduction biochip. For the action, you can set one unclaimed die to your biohazard or less. So I only have one of those right now. So any dice that I leave unclaimed, I can set those to one or less, or I can re-roll up to one die that has not been claimed. So that can help you in manipulating the dice. Here, as an action, I can decrement one unclaimed die this number of times. I only have one of those icons, so I can do that one time. And the dice loop. So if you decrement a 1, it goes to a 6. For the resolution on my triduction biochip, if I get a 3 of a kind, I can apply that much damage to an enemy based on the dice that are in the 3 of a kind. So if I have 3 4s, I can do 4 damage to the enemy. On the current reduction biochip, I can take these dice that I have been claimed, I can roll them, and then I will do damage based on the highest value -2 to the enemy. There are a lot of different ways to manipulate dice, and you do need to think about the mini game that you are playing while you are playing Pocket Sci-Fi. So to begin the game, you turn to Mission 1, and Mission 1 has this setup. The cyborg remnants of the human race have sent you to collect data from the Sibios planet, where alien scientists test new and more effective ways of controlling humanity. After receiving military and forensics training, you allowed the synth to capture you and lock you in a cage like a lab rat. On schedule, however, hackers remotely unlock all the cages. Objective: collect up to 6 unique data samples using methods to be described, then escape via a launch site. And so in this mission, on the mission map, we start on Encounter 1, and then we need to explore this base and find the launch site after having collected 6 units of data from the enemies that we are going to be facing off against. Now, Mission 1, as you are playing, it actually walks you through the rules and teaches you as you go, and I think it does a pretty good job of doing that. So Mission 1, it just tells you how to set up, and we've kind of already gone over this setup. And so that is Encounter 1, I should say. And then we move to Encounter 2. So this is a linear path. So we move our token to Encounter 2. And now we go to Encounter 2. From the walkway outside the vivarium, you can access the Synth Scientist Supply Closet with an easily smashed lock. What do you find within? So now we do a quantum test. We roll a number of dice based upon how many icons we have on our biochips. We have 1 there and 1 there. So we're going to roll 2d6 and then look at the results. We have a 2 and a 2. So we can choose which die to interact with. We only rolled a 2. So the cabinet is entirely empty. You gain nothing. If we had rolled a 4, we would do this. If we had rolled a 5 or a 6, we could choose to do that. So we found nothing when we hacked open the case. And now we can just move on to Encounter 3. Encounter 3. The hallway leads towards a large balcony overlooking an enormous area below. Massive cabinets, containment cells, electrical equipment, and other obstacles partition the area into many small rooms. Some of these flicker with light, while others echo with piercing screams of experimental subjects. As you look out over the grim scene, your cyborg mind builds a mental map. A plan begins to form for achieving your objective of collecting samples, documenting the work of the synth on this planet, after which you can search for the space dock to commandeer a launching shuttle for your escape. Okay, so that just gives us a little bit of the setup, and now we go into what is basically our first real encounter, and that is Encounter E4. So we can turn to the page E4, and we can read this here. Halfway down the ramp, you hear a scurrying sound. Out of a hole beneath the balcony emerges a gnashing rat. It attacks. Okay, so we have to fight C3. So we would draw card C3, and this tells us here what the icons will mean. The heart icon is 3, and it has a attack value of 3. So now that we know that, we can take a look at our rat here. So each one of those hearts will be 3, so that means that the rat has 6 hit points. And then we get into our battle here. This is our little dice placement mini game. And we also have a battle reference card here that also walks us through the steps. It's pretty easy, but there are a lot of icons and you just have to kind of think about what the little mini game is telling you to do. So here we have the rules for this combat. We will roll our die icons, number of dice. So we have 2. However, this is a minimum of 4. So we will roll 4 dice. The enemy will claim the lowest. When the enemy claims dice, they put it on their track there. Then we must flush one of your claimed dice that is equal to the highest unclaimed die. We'll go over that when that happens. Then it's our turn. We can claim dice onto our biochips. And then we go to the resolution phase where we will do damage to each other based off of the results, if we have a resolution, if we meet the requirements, or if the enemy meets their requirements to do damage to us. It's pretty interesting. So let's see how that works. So we roll a minimum of 4d6. So I will take 4d6 here, and we will roll those. Okay, oh my gosh, 6, 6, 6, and 4. What a lucky roll. Okay, so this says the enemy claims the lowest die, so they will claim the 4. We'll put that over there. You must flush one of your claimed dice equal to the highest unclaimed die if you have any that match. Okay, so my unclaimed dice, they are all 6s. I have no claimed dice, so I don't have to flush any of these. Now, I can choose to activate this by claiming all 3 of these because I rolled 3 in a row, so that's 6, 6, and 6. And now I can go to my resolution step, which does this value of damage, which is 6. And as we established before, each one of these hearts has 3 damage. And so I would do 6 damage, thus killing the rat outright. Now, because the rat had 1 die claimed, I get the opportunity to do a mission action. So there are 2 mission actions that you can take on this mission. The first one is to collect the data from this rat based on the dice that it has claimed. And remember, we're trying to find 6 units of unique data samples in order to win this mission. Or I can loot the rat's body by turning it over and claiming its biochip for my own, bringing my biochip total up to 3. And remember, I can have a maximum of 4. And then I also roll a d6 now and add 5 more hit points to that biochip. These dice get flushed, and now I move on to the next encounter. However, let's say that I didn't have such a lucky roll. Let's see if we can extend this combat a little bit longer as an example. Okay, so we'll roll our initial 4 dice because that's what this combat encounter is telling us to do. Okay, so a 6, 5, a 3, and a 2. That is a much better spread for an example. So the enemy is going to claim the lowest die, so that'll claim the 2. And now I have some options here. Let's see here. I can set one of my unclaimed die to this or less, to a 1, or I can re-roll up to 1 unclaimed die. I have a 3, 5, a 6, and a 6. Or I can decrement 1 unclaimed die up to this number of times, 1. So I could change this 6 into a 5. And then because these match here, I might want to go for a 3 of a kind of 5s. So I can put both of those there. And because I used that, I can't claim dice here. Okay, so I don't have a way to resolve any of my resolution phases. And the enemy is looking, if the enemy's claimed dice are, if they have more claimed dice than our highest claimed die, they get to resolve. What that means is right now, the enemy only has 1 claimed die. My highest total is 5. So they would have to have 5 or more claimed dice to do their damage to me. It's a little confusing, but once you just start to think about it, it does make sense. You just kind of have to look at the icons and parse out what they mean. So since neither the rat or myself can do a resolution, we go on to the next battle round. We start with 4 dice again. Okay, 2, 3, 4, and 5. What an interesting roll there. Okay, so the first thing, the enemy is going to claim the lowest die. I'll claim that to a 2. Now, you must flush one of your unclaimed die that equals the highest, one of your claimed dice that equals the highest unclaimed die. Well, this is a 5. So I have to flush one of my 5s that I've claimed. I will remove that. There we go. But I can take that again by taking that 5. And then I could take both of these and claim those there like that. Okay, so now we're going to go to the next battle round here. And we have 4 dice to roll. A 6, a 6, a 3, and a 3. And that was a 3 there. All right, so the rat claims the lowest die. So the rat will claim a 3. Now the rat has 3 dice, but my total is 5. My highest total is 5, so it still doesn't trigger its resolution. I must flush one of my claimed die of the highest unclaimed die. My highest unclaimed die is 6. I don't have any claimed 6s, so we are good. I'm going to use this action to decrement one unclaimed die. So that'll go down to 5. And now we have 3 of a kind of a 5. So I could apply that 5 damage to this. That would leave the rat with 1 hit point left. We've done a resolution phase. So now we flush everything and we start that combat over. And that's kind of how the game goes. There are opportunities for when you are moving through the maze and moving through the labyrinth, through the dungeon. Sometimes you will have a choice where you can choose one or another. Sometimes you might roll a die and have a random encounter, sometimes a random story encounter. You can find health potions and different items that you will add to your character sheet. And those will be different ways to either heal yourself or maybe manipulate dice or give you other options to do. And there are 3 different missions to work towards. So we have this, then we get to the end, we get to the mission 1 briefing, and then you go on to mission 2. And mission 2 takes place in this area. And then once you have finished mission 2, you will move on to mission 3. And mission 3 takes place in a small map here. And you want to complete all 3 missions with a total of 12 or more points. Now, the enemies, the encounters, they do get more complex. They get more dangerous as you go. And the mini games continue to change as you are playing. And they continue to be interesting. And you do need to think about how you are manipulating your die, the order of operations. And you need to think of some of your tactics and strategy in order to make it through and get enough points to win. I think this game is pretty neat. I think the dice placement, the dice kind of puzzle system, the dice manipulation is really interesting. I like how the book walks you through and teaches you how to play as you go. It can be a little complicated to learn just because of the icons and what they mean, but once it clicks, it makes sense, and so it's not too bad. The one main issue I have with this game is that it's called Pocket Sci-Fi, and it's in a nice small box. But to play it, you need this large book and you need a printout of the map and a character sheet. It's also hard to store because you have this small box, but then you also have to find a place to put this this rule book and this mission book. And so it kind of, I think, in a way defeats the name Pocket Sci-Fi. I would love to see this game be all cards, where the map was actually done on cards, and you had a number of different encounter rooms, a maze, a dungeon on the cards that you could then lay out in different configurations. So then you can move around a different map each time you played the game. And then the encounters could also be another deck of cards. They could have all of these encounters in the book on cards, so that everything could just be stacked in this small box, and it actually would be Pocket Sci-Fi. And then also maybe a way to have a smaller character sheet on a card that you could also put in your box. I think that would make this game feel a lot more like its namesake. It would make it feel a lot more like a game called Pocket Sci-Fi. And it would also allow for, I think, a little bit more variety in how you could set up your missions and how you could have different encounters in different orders. A second edition Pocket Sci-Fi, where it really is a pocket game where everything that you need really does fit in this small box with cards as encounters, cards as the maps, and cards as the character sheet. I think could really elevate this game to something really cool, because the core mechanism, the core mini games of manipulating your dice and placing dice and using dice in interesting ways, I think is really fun. And when you do something cool, it really does make you feel clever. So that was a look at Pocket Sci-Fi. This game is available on the Game Crafter. And now we're going to take a look at Soulless Lost. Okay, here is Soulless Lost. And like I said, I stumbled upon this game because of a Facebook ad, one of those targeted ads. It's the first time I've ever done that, and I think it kind of paid off, at least in a little bit. So what you're seeing here is the base game. So in the base game, you get this small box, again, about the same size as Pocket Sci-Fi, just a little bigger. So you'll get this, you'll get your D20, 2 pink cubes, your rule book, this stack of cards, and your character cards. And then you're also seeing a small booster expansion. And the expansion, it's a booster expansion like the expansions for Iron Helm. It's not a collectible card game by any stretch, but you'll get the same cards when you buy this little booster expansion. So let's read a little bit about Soulless Lost. And this is from Wolf Boy Games, and that's at wolfboyeg.com. So, Soulless Lost. Lost in the vast and unforgiving cosmos, you are a wayward space traveler yearning to find your way back home, but the path ahead is treacherous and full of peril. You must first find and activate the elusive home links that will guide you back to where you belong. The stakes are high, for failure to find and activate all 4 home links means certain doom in the unforgiving depths of space. In Soulless Lost, you're forced to make difficult decisions and choose a path wisely. Every decision you make will have consequences, and every choice will determine your fate as you struggle to find your way back home. Are you ready for the challenge? So when I first got this game and set it up, my initial impression was, wow, this is kind of a sci-fi Iron Helm. But it's really not, because it gives you the illusion of choice, but there really isn't a lot of choice in how the game plays. And I'll show you why in just a minute. And I think if they could maybe do a little redesign here and make the choices more meaningful, this really could be a sci-fi Iron Helm. I also think the rules leave quite a bit to be desired. I did have to go on BGG and figure some things out. They're very brief, but they're way too brief. I think some things are missing and some things are a little more confusing for what a simple game this really is. So in the base game, you will get a large deck of cards, and these are going to be all of your different types of encounters. You will also get a character card and a ship card. So we have our character of Farron and our ship of the Solus. You will take your character card and your ship card. You will lay those out next to each other. You will take your pink tracking tokens and you will place those on the white icons there. Now, as your ship takes damage, it will lose damage, and if it ever gets down to the skull, your ship blows up, it's game over. Your character, they have to worry about their age because they are out here in outer space. It takes a long time to travel. You're traveling light years. You're going through different wormholes and portals. And so as they age, they might age until they die. If your character's age ever reaches the skull icon, they die, and it is game over. Now, the expansion, it actually comes with a few different characters and different ships. And the expansion ships have different abilities that will allow you to manipulate and change the game in different ways. The little expansion also comes with a cheat sheet card here for your damage when you roll your D20 to attack an enemy or when they attack you. Normally that is in the book here, but the expansion just comes with a little cheat sheet card that you can lay next to your ship. We also have these 4 relics, and we need to defeat enemy bosses, these guardians, in order to activate these relics. And then once the relics are activated, if we ever encounter one of the home links, then we can activate the home link, and we have to activate all 4 home links in order to win the game, in order to find our way back home. And so in total, we have to defeat 4 bosses, activate 4 relics, and then activate 4 home links. And that's what we're trying to do. The encounters that we will have while we are traveling in space include NPCs that we can recruit onto our ship that will give us an active ability and a passive ability and the ability to take more damage before we die. We can have 1 NPC on our ship at a time. If we ever draw another NPC and we want to swap out the NPC that is currently with us, we will take 10 health damage or 10 age damage. We will age 10. I kind of think of that as us taking Lieutenant Grosshire home or taking him back to where he needs to be and picking up DRR 3721 or something like that. We will have encounters with enemy ships, and enemy ships will have a defense value, and so that's what you're trying to roll, meet or beat in order to do damage to the ship, and then they can do damage back to us. And then sometimes we will have just little story encounters that we might have to roll on, or certain things might happen. Sometimes it'll just tell you to take damage, and sometimes you will have a choice of what to do. Now, overall, I think Soulless Lost has a really cool look to it. I actually think that Pocket Sci-Fi looks really cool too, but I think the art in Soulless Lost is pretty great. I love the color scheme, and that's really one of the things that made me want to take a look at the game. I was really drawn to the colors. I was really drawn to kind of like the bold style of this game. But here we go. So we'll take these. We'll set our relics off to the side because we can't activate them yet until we defeat the 4 guardians. And each of the guardians has an icon that matches one of the relics. And so that's how you know which relic the guardian belongs to. We'll place those next to our character here. Oh, there also are tools. And if we come across tools like the cloaking shield, our ship can be equipped with 2 shields. And if we ever find a 3rd tool, we can jettison one of the tools and we can swap it out for no penalty. All right, so we will shuffle up our deck of encounter cards like so, and then we can start playing the game. And to play the game, you draw 2 cards and you can choose which one to encounter. And so here's where the choices really don't mean much because it's not really a choice. Both of them are blind. If Jason Glover was designing this game, or if this was a sci-fi Iron Helm, one of these would be face up and the other would be face down. And then we could choose the devil we know or face the consequences of the devil we don't know. And I think something like this would make this game way more interesting because it would make each turn have some kind of weight to it. Because as of right now, when both of our choices are blind, it really doesn't mean anything. We might as well just be working through the deck 1 card at a time. So I don't know, do we want the left card or the right card? Let's choose the right card. Okay, perceived threat. This is a tool that we can take into our deck or into our ship there. Man, that's a great looking card. Look at the art, it's really good. Every battle, you avoid any damage on your first roll. That's really cool. So we have a heightened perception in battle. So we can attach perceived threat to our ship. And now we can go on to our next turn. Okay, so now we have 2 choices. Well, this choice was left from before, but what does that really mean? Let's encounter this card. An asteroid field. Okay. You enter the asteroid field, a treacherous maze of rocky debris hurtling through space. Your ship weaves and dodges between the massive boulders, the sound of alarms and sirens ringing in your ears as you try to avoid a catastrophic collision. Take 2 damage. All right, so 2 damage. Now we have different icons on the bottom of these cards here. One is a coffin. That means that this goes face up into the graveyard. Most likely, we will never have to encounter this card again. There's another icon that is a little sparkle icon, and that goes to a lost discard, and those get put face down. There will be certain cards where we can shuffle in our lost back into our deck to encounter again. I think incorporating one of those with the ability to actually have a meaningful choice could be an interesting way to make this game much better. Okay, our next turn. All right, again, what are we going to choose? Well, it really doesn't matter. Let's take this card here. Okay, a plasma cruiser. So this is a combat encounter with a plasma cruiser. They have a strength of 14, so I need to roll a 14 or higher in order to hit them. They have an attack value of 5. So that means if I roll a 1 through a 5, they attack me. If I roll anything between a 5 or a 6 and a 13, I believe, if I roll a 6 or a 13, we both do damage to each other. So they have 3 health. I would have to do 3 damage in order to kill them. Initiate warp drives cause you to age 30 years. So if I try to escape them by initiating my warp drives, usually you can escape conflict by only taking 10 health or 10 age and damage. But here I would age 30 years. So that would put me on the track to aging out and dying. All right, so let's see what kind of combat I can do. Every battle, I may avoid damage on my first roll because of my perceived threat. So this is really nice. I don't have to worry about this roll here. And I rolled a 12. Okay, so a 12 was not 1 through 5 and not 14 or higher. So I look at the 12, 1 damage. We each take 1 damage. So my ship takes a damage and they take a damage. I also wish that there was something in the game for us to keep track of the enemy, of the damage we've done to the enemy. So I've done 1 damage to the enemy. Okay, so now I can't use my perceived threat. I've already used that. It's past my first roll. Okay, so let's go to the next combat encounter here, or the next combat round. I'll roll my d20 and an 11. Again, it's between those two values. It's not over 14, it's not under 5. And so we look here on the chart here, 11, we each take 1 damage. Okay, so they only need 1 more damage to be destroyed. And at 12, okay, once again, they take damage, I take damage, and now they are destroyed, and so on. And if they're destroyed, they go to the graveyard. Okay, our next turn. Let's take this card here. All right, a home link. Shuffle the lost stack back into the deck. You may search the graveyard for a recruit to put into play. So if we were able to, if we had destroyed the Guardian that was linked to this home link, we could then take the home link and we would be 1/4 of our way to victory because we had found this, home link, and possibly we had also found the corresponding relic. But we don't have the corresponding relic. We haven't defeated the corresponding Guardian. So this goes to our lost pile, but then we also have to shuffle back in our lost pile. And now we can continue playing. Now let's do this one here. Okay, so here we find an NPC. This is Grunch. Grunch we can take onto our ship, and it's kind of like having an additional tool. He has a passive ability of before each battle, I can repair a damage. Grunch can take damage, so Grunch can soak 1 damage for me. And then I can activate 1 time during the game, once per recruitment, repair up to 5 damage. Okay, that's pretty handy there. I have 5 damage already. Actually, I didn't have 3. Did I have 3? I can't remember how much damage I had, but it doesn't matter. We'll just keep going. I think I knocked that damage token over. But as you can see, if this game had some more meaningful choices, I think it would be just a lot more of an impactful game. Choosing blind each time doesn't feel very good. It doesn't really give you the feeling of making a choice because you don't know what you are choosing. I think if one of these was placed face up, and then you could take that, or you could choose to take this, but if this was bad, it would be really bad, but maybe this would be better, and you'd have to take that risk. There really isn't a sense of taking risks in this game, and this game is all about your character trying to get home. And I think it would be a lot better if you could push yourself, if you could take risk in order to get home faster, in order to do more interesting things, and in order to, you wanted to press your luck a little bit. I never feel like I'm really pressing my luck. And that's one of the best things about Jason Glover's games. That's one of the best things about Iron Helm is you can really press your luck and you can do really well, but sometimes that comes back to bite you in the butt and you take a lot of damage or something really bad happens. And I just never get that feeling from this game. When I first set it up, I was thinking, wow, this is kind of a sci-fi Iron Helm. I'm kind of really into this game. But the more I played it, the more I realized that there just wasn't really enough there to hold my interest for the entire game. And that's too bad because I think it looks great. I mean, look at these cards. They look so cool. And I love that theme of being lost in space and trying to get home. I like the little narrative encounters. I love stuff like that. And I think overall, I think the design is kind of interesting, but it just needs to have a little more choice. There just needs to be a little more for us to do from one turn to the next. So I know a lot of Dungeon Dive viewers are always looking for science fiction games because there just doesn't seem to be as many science fiction games as there are fantasy games. And I was hoping to have discovered two really great sci-fi games that I could wholeheartedly recommend. But as it stands, I can kind of recommend both of them. I think that Pocket Sci-Fi has a lot to offer in its dice manipulation and dice placement mini games. It's very interesting. Dice placement, dice manipulation games are a lot of fun. And that is a mechanism that a lot of us like. And so if you like that kind of thing, I think you will really like Pocket Sci-Fi. Just know that it's not really Pocket Sci-Fi because it does take up quite a bit of space on the table because you will need to print out the maps, you will need to print out your character card, and you will need this book here in order to work through the missions. Soulless Lost is almost a sci-fi Iron Helm, but it lacks that element of pressing your luck, and it lacks that element of really important decisions to choose the devil you know or the devil you don't, where you might have to pay the cost of making the wrong choice. So, all right, you guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this look at two little sci-fi games. We will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.